Hi, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Breakthrough with me, your host, Tess Timmons. I wanted to talk to you today about negotiations. That's the main topic. I'm going to use the example of me recently purchasing a car, but I'd love to hear in the comment section your experience with negotiations, whether it's asking a boss for a raise, buying a new car, talking to a doctor. There are, landlord, there's so many ways that we negotiate on a daily basis, right? And culturally, it can be different when you're purchasing stuff in different countries and what have you, of what is rude versus what is custom. So I wanted to talk about negotiations and the value of your worth. I feel like I have been on a journey with this in the last 2 years, and again, because of purchasing a vehicle. So last year, I bought a Volkswagen Tiguan, and you can see actually an episode that I filmed with two former students of mine, major car guys, Max and Anthony. So I will link that video to this one. And they talked with me a lot about like what kind of cars I should buy and the longevity of my vehicle, what I was looking for. And so I ended up buying a Volkswagen Tiguan, and I was looking for something that could have longevity. It was a 2021 vehicle, and that vehicle this year, I had only had it for a year, started to have like a huge oil leak issue. So last year I was with my friends, Kelly and Taylor, and we went to so many different car dealerships in the Monterey area because in one weekend I found out that my Jeep Liberty that I loved from 2008, that it was on its final its final goodbye. I drove the crap out of that car. It had over 150,000 miles on it. I drove it all over the entire state of California, and I just love that vehicle. Vehicles to me give me a lot of freedom, and I've been driving since I was 16 years old. And so I formed like quite a relationship with that car because we drove everywhere together, lots of road trips, especially during COVID. So, which sounds kind of weird. You're driving around during COVID? Yeah, I was. I was doing a lot of outdoor road trips. So, when we look at having to buy a new car, it can be exciting or it can be pressurized. In my example last year, it was very pressurized. My car died on a Friday. They told me that it would cost a certain amount of money to rebuild the engine, and it was a 2008 Jeep Liberty. I was not wanting to dump thousands of dollars into that vehicle to make a new engine for it. It actually would cost way less to buy a newer vehicle. So I went to several different car lots, and at first I was feeling very overwhelmed. I was not planning on buying a car that weekend. I was looking at my finances. I was nervous. I contacted a friend of mine, Kelly. Her and her wife came with me, and we went to several dealerships. I was so thankful to have support there with me because it was news that just happened to me rather than me planning it, right? So they were so helpful to me as far as like driving me around to the different dealerships, talking to the different dealers, test driving different cars, and keeping me in high spirits. So sometimes when you're looking to negotiate or purchase a big product, and it might be your first time doing that or not. I had purchased vehicles in the past, but I had never purchased a vehicle that was newer. It was a 2021, and I was going to be having to do financing on it, right? So it was great to bring friends along that already knew that experience. They could keep me in high spirits, be excited about the different cars we were test driving. Instead of me, I was feeling very overwhelmed and trying to look at price and oh my gosh, and I just had paid thousands of dollars on my last vehicle at the auto mechanic shops. So that's some good advice as far as like worth and feeling overwhelmed with the process, right? So I purchased that car. It was wonderful. I bought it from a BMW Lithia dealership in Monterey. Shout out. And one cool thing that I learned there was even though it was a Volkswagen, it was turned in, and the owner bought a BMW. So they had that sitting on their lot. And for an extra $1,000 when I talked to the finance guys, I got oil changes for life on that vehicle. That was really cool, Lithia, in Monterey, because you guys hooked it up. When we look at the price of an oil change nowadays, you're looking at spending $100 and some for that one oil change. So for $1,000 for the life of the vehicle, that's a good deal. So I was happy to jump up with that with the finance department. I didn't do extended warranties or anything because it was a used vehicle on their lot. And so that experience really helped me when this happened this year. I was definitely not planning on having that Tiguan leave me for a very long time. But so again, it was a little bit of a surprise. However, from the time I moved to Southern California, from July to January, I ended up getting 5 oil changes. That's not normal. Okay. And the dealership that I was going to down here to get my oil changes said, hey, what's going on after the first oil change, right? When I came back so soon. So I went to an auto mechanic shop and they did a beautiful job. They put in an oil pan for me, a brand new oil pan. I paid $550 for that. And unfortunately, I'm not much of a car person, although I could be. I know plenty of women who have redone and worked on their own vehicles. But that bedpan had a plastic inlining. And I bet if I was a car mechanic person, I could buy that inlining for about $5-10, that plastic piece, instead of the entire oil pan that ended up costing $550. But I did pay them for their labor, their advice, their ability to get it done. I felt very taken care of at that auto mechanic shop. When it started to leak again, I knew it wasn't the oil pan. So I started researching on YouTube and also on Reddit. Some of us might think that Reddit is a good or not good site to look at. I understand that there's some bias and opinion out there, but I'm older. I know how to weed through it. And I found that Tiguans that are from 2019 and 2020 and 2021, which was my vehicle, 2021, there are some of them, and of course I got the gem, some of them that have continual oil leaks after 50,000 miles, and it's not the oil pan. People spent over $3,000 trying to fix the issue. It was not happening. There were also 5 other recalls on my car that were not there the year prior, and I had definitely hit the 50,000 miles. I was at 70,000, so I'd put 10,000 on in 1 year. And instead of dumping a lot of money into that car and trying to figure out the issue, I decided I was going to trade it in. And I decided to trade it in and buy a brand new vehicle. So this was something I had to negotiate and something I had to figure out with my worth and my priorities. So when I'm talking about negotiations, priorities, and worth, this is like where I'm really headed. But again, I'm using this car example. So I was looking at the fact that what's my bottom line? And my bottom line is that I really want to invest in travel. So I didn't want to dump more and more money into a vehicle. When I was looking at a car, I decided that I wanted to get a Toyota. I know that they are reliable. I've purchased Toyotas in the past, and I also wanted to get something that would have like longevity. Like long longevity. So I ended up getting a Toyota Corolla, and I drove those back in the 90s. I know they're looked at as more of like a college kid car. I am not a college kid. However, I wanted something that is reliable, decent, and I would say the body of a Toyota Corolla has come a long way. So it looks very nice. There's still a lot of there's a lot more electrical going on with it than I would have thought. I ended up not getting a hybrid. I know that can seem very controversial. A hybrid could be a great option, but I ended up choosing not a hybrid because I didn't want to put in the electrical stuff on it. However, it's also a great option. So either one is great. And so when I got the vehicle, I first went to a dealership and I went and walked around and I talked to them and I drove a hybrid. And then I was told that I would get a trade-in on my Tiguan for $10,000. And I still was making payments on that car, and I had a loan for it for $16,000. So when they told me that offer, I felt disheartened. I felt like not excited. And I forgot that I had the ability to negotiate. So I just kind of took the offer in, and I was like, ooh, that's not what I was thinking I would do. Um, while I was at that dealership, one of the dealers did mention to me, hey, if you work with a credit union, you can get a really low interest rate. And I know that, like, oh, it seems like that dealer was kind of giving me a tip that wasn't really beneficial to the dealership, but it would still help a car get sold, right? But I already had said to them, I'm not going to buy today. I wasn't counting on just a $10,000 trade-in. And so then I was given that really kind piece of advice. Now, because I'm a teacher, I belong to Schools First. I have a summer savings program with them. It helps out teachers. It gives us a high yielded interest rate on our money that we're putting aside for the summer. Because if you don't know, teachers do not get paid over the summer. So we only get paid for the 10 months that we are working, which I would love for that to change. So we have to take money out of our own salary and save it for those summer months. Obviously, we can get another job, but like, whatever. That's a whole nother story. But it does have to do with value and worth. And I think that teachers have worth, and they are worth the pay over the summer when they're not working. Because let's get real, it's really only 2 months. So anyway, so we'll come back to the other story, but that's a good one about worth as well. And so what I did was I thought about, like, what is the value of my car and what's my bottom line? So when we're looking to negotiate, whether it's with a boss or a vehicle or what have you, come back to something that is logical and not emotional. So what I did was I went home and I looked at my Volkswagen and I priced it out. So I looked at the Kelley Blue Book offering, and yes, it was 10,000 for the Kelley Blue Book deal. Then I started thinking about the fact that I have no children or no pets, so nothing is going inside of this vehicle to damage it, right? Hey, that's a positive. And I looked at the interior of my car. It's magnificent. The person who owned it before me only put 59 or 58,000 miles on it, and I only put 10,000 miles on it. So although it had an oil leak, which I didn't have to say when I was trading in that car, someone could fix it, and then the longevity of the car can be great. I just am not willing to do that. So I also looked at the fact that there's only 70,000 miles on the vehicle, and that the vehicle is in great condition. There are no scratches, no bumps, no car accidents, the tires are still new. It's, no dents in the vehicle. So it's under immaculate condition except for that oil leak issue. So I had to look at, like, what are the positives of it? Then I looked at my finances and I looked at my bottom line. What is my bottom line? I need this vehicle to be traded in at a value of 13 or 12,000 because I have enough money in my account that I can cover the rest. Because what I was also looking at was, if I trade this car in and then I carry some of my former finances over into my new vehicle, that would make the new vehicle cost more. So if you've never traded in a car that you're making payments on, I had never done that before. If you've never done that before, that's what can happen. Now, I didn't want, like, let's say $5,000 to transfer over to my new vehicle, because then I'm paying interest on that and it's going to cost more. I wanted to be able to get 13 or 12,000 for that vehicle and then pay the rest off with cash, so that it doesn't transfer over into my new loan. Then my new loan is just its own loan. So in knowing that, I could come to the next dealership, like, prepared and ready, right? So Yeah, and then I also made sure that I was really clear in what I wanted, because when I go to a dealership and I want to negotiate, I only want my credit run 1 to 3 times max. I don't want my credit score run and run and run. So if you're going to go hop to different dealerships, you want to go, you want to test drive, you want to bring your ID with you, but leave everything else, and don't and tell them I'm not buying today, because you want to make sure that you're not running your credit score. When I was shopping around with my friends in Monterey, we test drove and went to, like, I don't know, 7 different dealerships, because we were looking at all different types of cars and all different types of dealerships. So that's a good tip as well. But when you're ready to buy, you want to have this in your pocket. So when I went to the next dealership, I told them that I had been to a dealership previously and that I was headed to another dealership after them. Now, was I wanting to go to 3 dealerships? Not necessarily, but I told that other dealership that I had another dealership to go to after them on purpose. I wanted them to know that I'm looking around, and I want them to know that they should give me the best deal. When you are shopping for a job, I want you to apply for more than one thing, right? So have cast your net wide so that you have options, so that you're not feeling desperate for something. When I was teaching seniors in high school, I would always tell them, apply to multiple schools so that you're in the driver's seat, so that you get 5 acceptance letters and then you can choose which one you want, right? You want to be in the driver's seat of your life. So that's, and we're talking about cars. So that's always a really important thing. So as I went to this dealership, I let them know. I went to a dealership prior, I'm at yours today, and then after yours, I'm jumping over to this other dealership to go look at cars as well. Like, I'm in the driver's seat, I'm deciding, and you should try to give me a good deal, right? I don't say that part, but that's what I'm thinking. You should try to give me a good deal because I'm headed to another dealership after this. So when I went to the dealership, I was feeling very confident. I knew my bottom line, and I know that I have the right to walk away. So when you're thinking about a job or a relationship, this goes anywhere. And I'm not just talking like a lover, I'm talking about also like a friendship. Like, here's my worth, here's how I want to be treated, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I can bring to the table. And if it's not met, that's okay. I'm walking away, because it's not about like, you're not good enough for me. It's more about like, we're looking for a match where things can work, right? So if I'm looking at a company and I'm wanting to work there, okay, well, here are my values. Here's what I can bring to the table. Here's my time. Here's my constraints. Here's what my abilities are. Are we in a good working relationship? Can we match as far as like, what are the issues that are at your office? What are you in need of? What services do you require? What are the skill sets that you're looking for? And can I match those? So you're both looking at each other equally, saying, let's see if we're a match. It's not, ooh, I really want to work here, or I really, really like you, or whatever, right? You're not in this desperate feeling. We're in a feeling of ourselves. We love ourselves. We know what we're looking for. And it's not that like emotional, which is an interesting thing to say, ladies, I know, or also the youth, but the less emotion, actually, the better. And the emotion is not negative. It's just, instead of pushing it all out here, you're going to reel it inside of you and have it holding in you. You are your worth. You know what you need, right? It's not, the need is not out there. It's not going to fulfill you out there. Okay, so when I went to this dealership, another cool thing that I did the night before was I was thinking of going back to the dealership that I had already previously talked to, but I could feel in my gut like that wasn't really a good idea. They had given me a $10,000 offer. I didn't negotiate. I chose not to. I was kind of shocked because I wasn't really ready for that process. I was still in the look around phase. And so I decided I wanted to go to a different dealership. And that just felt right in me. I was listening to my intuition. So before I went to that other dealership that morning, I looked online and I looked at their website, and then I was more prepared and I got like a sign. So when I looked on their website at the dealership I wanted to go to next, or the company you're looking at, or whatever, I researched online and I saw that they had a special offer for that day only. For that day only, their Kelley Blue Book offer was, we'll give you $1,500 over your Kelley Blue Book price. Ring, ding, ding. I felt like this was the universe speaking to me. I felt like I was on Hunger Games and someone had just parachute dropped a survival kit for me. I felt like it was a definite sign. So I felt like, people were rooting for me, like I'm supposed to go there, because I knew that if my Kelley Blue Book was $10,000 and they were going to give me 1,500 over, that's going to take me toward 11,000, and that I could push up to the number that I was holding in my mind, right? So when you're looking for like salary and what have you, really come back to center. And before you go on that job interview, do an entire layout of like, here's where I want to live. Here's the cost of that rent. Here's my car payments. Here's my phone bill. Here's all these other things that I have to buy. Food. I need to be able to have entertainment every once in a while. So here's how much I really need to get paid. And with that pay, I know that there's taxes, and depending on the state in America I live in, that it's going to take this much out of my pay. So I need to negotiate for this amount so that I get this amount after taxes so I can survive, right? You need to know what you actually can afford. I remember working at a Kohl's store while I was going to school for my master's, and a girl was crying in the back break room, and I was asking her like, hey, are you doing okay? And she said, well, I got hired here and I didn't understand all the taxes because I'm from out of state. I just moved here and I can't pay my rent. I just got my first paycheck. I can't pay my rent. And I was like, oh, you didn't understand the taxes. That's really important to know, because you don't want to put yourself in that predicament, right? So you need to really understand, like, when you live somewhere, they're going to ask you to pay your rent, and then you might have to pay the water bill as well, and the electrical will be separate, but you might have other taxes. They might have a pesticide tax. They might have this, that, and the other. So add-ons, right? So you need to know, what's the bottom line of my rent? What's the bottom line with my salary? So that young woman had to get a different job, right? Like, there's no way around it. You can't pay your rent, or you can get a roommate. There's ways that you can move, but I just want to make sure that you understand. I don't want you crying in the corner. I want you to be fully aware of what you're walking into. And if you're going into a business negotiation with a boss or what have you, these are really good things to know, because you can walk in there and say, hey, my bottom line is this. I can't go any lower. Like, what is the rate of pay? Now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask them about the company. And I've already done background research about the vision and mission of the company. I've read several times their job description. I know what they're looking for. I know that I'm looking for a company that values kindness, that understands a clear mission, that values creativity. So you have to know yourself and what skills you bring to the table. I know that I am a leader. I need to be in a leadership position, because I'm not a good soldier. I don't just do everything I'm told. I'm inquisitive. I'm curious. I will follow rules and procedures, but I also need to be onboarded correctly and taught the proper reasoning of why we do things the way they do things. For me personally, I need to work for a company that's very streamlined. I really value like systematic process. I'm also someone who speaks up when systematic process isn't working, but I speak up in a solution-oriented way. I like to help fix things so that they move smoother for everyone. So people have to understand that about me too, right? Like, if I'm going to be working for a company, I might bring up an issue, but with a solution in mind. I'm not just going to complain, and I'm not going to spread negativity. I want to be understood that if I bring something to the table to management, upper management, that I'm bringing it there so that we can co-work together. I was raised by a lot of entrepreneurs, so I understand worker value up and entrepreneurs value down. I know how to look at both sides of things. So I'm usually great at like middle management or management lead. So these are really strong factors to understand about yourself when you're looking for work. And what that company needs, right? And then again, you need to know that when you're asking about a salary, I've found some great jobs in the past, but they paid at a rate that could not afford me. And that's okay, because I'm not going down in pay. I'm always going up. So these are really important factors to understand about yourself. So when I went to that dealership, back to the dealership story. When I went to the dealership after I'd already had all of these type of conversations with myself, I know my bottom line, I know what I need, I know what I can walk in and walk out with. And so I walked in, I met Pernil, who is fantastic at the Toyota dealership. And when I walked right up to him, I said, "Hey, I'm looking to buy a Toyota Corolla. I know that you have 4 or 5 on your lot that are my top favorites due to the price of the vehicles. I know I want a 2026 vehicle. I want a brand new vehicle because I want the warranties, and I'm ready to test drive." And so that was really helpful as well, because then the dealership knows, okay, I'm not going to try to have her drive a RAV4, which is way more expensive. It's an SUV. She's not interested. I'm saving the dealership time as well. I'm clearly communicating and I know what I need. Now, if you're going to a dealership and you're saying, I want to test drive a variety of vehicles, they're going to start you with the most expensive, best thing usually. And that's because they want to, yes, sell you something that they get a good cut on, but they're also going to show you the latest and greatest. Why wouldn't they? That's a great thing that they're doing, right? So I talked to them about the fact that I wanted to drive not even the hybrid vehicles, that I was looking for something super, super economical, and that I needed a loan on a vehicle that was the least amount possible. So they understood where I was at. And also, I don't feel bad or shamed or guilty for saying that. Like, here's what I need. Because I know my other values. I value travel. I value peace of mind. I don't want to put money into a vehicle, right? So it's not bad that I'm saying, hey, I want this, I want this, I want the least amount possible, I want a high yield warranty. So I know that that is what I'm looking for, because I know other things about me that match what I need, right? So there's no shame or negativity about it. I think that's another a really important one when we're looking at like dating and negotiating. What? Dating and negotiating? Yeah. When you are meeting someone for the first time on a date, this is more like European thought process, and I think it's brilliant, is that you are sitting down with someone and you've never met them before. They're another human being on earth, and you don't really know where the conversation is going to go. It's just like sitting next to someone on an airplane. You're there for a moment of time, and it might lead to a friendship, a business deal, a one-time meeting of someone who is interesting. And it doesn't matter if they match you or not. Like, it's not even really about that. I mean, you're both looking for love, so you know you both have something in common, but I'm not going to sit there and ask all these questions about my list and see if this is going to be the long-term matrimony of my life. Oh my God, that's crazy. So I know we think like that in America because we are programmed to, right? We are programmed to think like that, but break out of that. Break out of that. So you're meeting a human being, and it's wonderful to have a conversation with them to find out who these people are. Wow, it's exciting. You've had all these great career paths. Wow, that's exciting that you do this and that. Wow, you have beautiful eyes, and it's been great conversation. You know what I mean? Like be happy to just meet a human being. And it doesn't matter if they're as good as you, because I think that is a huge problem. That you've created this list, you're going in, and we'll see. Would I ever go see a comedian and I hope he makes me laugh? You know, people have said that before, and I find that so crazy, so weird to say. Why would you go to a comedy show? We'll see if he's funny. Why go to the comedy show? I just think about your attitude and what you're bringing to the table. You know what I mean? In all forms, in all negotiations of life. So I went into the dealership and we test drove cars, and it was awesome. He took me around and we drove around and we looked at every single Corolla that was a 2026 Corolla. There was one that had just dropped on the lot and it was still wrapped and it was gray. And we were driving around in a white one. And I said to him, you know what? My Tiguan was gray. I just don't really want a gray vehicle, but it's $300 less than the vehicle, the white car. Why? Why is that? And he goes, oh, and he was wonderful. And so we got out of the white vehicle and we went over to the gray one and we were reading all the fine print information. And he said, oh, well, it doesn't have car mats in it. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but the carpeted car mats in this vehicle are not worth $300. How do I know that? Because I've always bought new mats for my car, and I go to Costco, Walmart, and auto shops and buy foot mats for my cars. So I know I can get them for way less than $300. And so he goes, all right, we'll match that price. So it was not emotional. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that $300 for these mats. It wasn't like that. It was also in good spirits. So, hey, I've bought mats before. I don't think those are worth $300. Can we negotiate that? Let's take $300 off. Okay, because he's trying to get that car sold. He's ready to get a car sold, right? So $300, sure, let's go. So we were in the vehicle. I'm test driving it, checking it all out. And I mentioned to him, like, hey, I was at a Toyota dealership yesterday and they quoted me this price and it was $1,000 less than what you have. You also had a car on your lot that was here yesterday. I guess it's sold because we just went through your entire lot. But could you match the price of that other Toyota dealership? Because that's the price they gave me. He took $1,500 off that brand new vehicle. I talked with him and I got $1,500 off the brand new vehicle. Yes, I did. And then when we were looking to trade in my car, let me come back to that new vehicle. The trade-in is fine. Okay, so when we were looking to trade in my vehicle, we went and walked over to my vehicle, the Tiguan, and right when we walked over there, I showed him he needed the door open for the VIN number. Now, I could just open the door and show him the VIN number, but here's what I knew because I know my worth. So I knew that the Kelley Blue Book was going to say 10,000. So while he was looking at my VIN number, it's my turn to shine. I am now in the sales position. So I opened up all the doors of my car and I said, hey, I also want to show you my car. I want you to know that I have no children or no pets in here that would damage this vehicle. My mom would be cringing right now, but I'm like, yes, like this is a positive, right? No children, no pets. So I was like, look at how brand new this vehicle is. Like it is spectacular. Like the woman before me kept it clean. She was an old woman and I've kept it clean. Like there's no rips, all the stitching is gorgeous. And it has finer stitching than a Toyota Corolla. The interior is really nice. And then I showed him that I had in the trunk, I had the thing that you pull. So it covers all of your groceries or your Christmas presents so that no one sees what's in your vehicle. My friend Kelly bought that for me for my birthday. And so I showed him hey, I put this in here. I added to this vehicle. I also showed him there's no scratches, no dings on this entire vehicle. It's never been in a car accident. The tires are still great. I only put 10,000 miles on it in 1 year. I am talking this car up. And then I said, so I'm looking for 13,000. So I said what I needed. I'm looking for 13,000. Now remember, my walkaway price is 12,000, but I told him 13,000, right? I'm going above what I really need to walk away with because, honey, I'm always open to more. So then we walked into the dealership and he came back with the Kelley Blue Book price and said, okay, well, your car is showing at 10,000. And I said, yes. But also you guys have a Kelley Blue Book deal today for an additional 1,500. I brought it up. He didn't bring it up not because he's a bad guy, because he's doing a different type of sale and I'm doing a different type of sale. He's getting a commission. I'm trying to trade in my car. It's a dance. It's not negative. It's positive if you know how to handle it, right? So then he said, oh, did you print out the rebate? And I said, no, I didn't print out the rebate. I didn't see that part, but on your website, I took a picture of it. See? And I had the picture. And he goes, well, you're supposed to print out the rebate. And I said, it's right here on my phone. Get with the times. I'm not printing it out. And he said, that's fine. I have a printed copy for you. Again, it's a dance and it was fun, right? And then, so he came back and he said, your car then with the Kelley Blue Book value would be $11,500. And right then in a fun energy exchange, I said, round it up to 12. And he said, okay, see how fast it happened? Round it up to 12. Okay, boom, boom. And the negotiation took place. It was an exchange of positive energy. I felt very worthy, in power, in positive power. And I knew I needed 12. So when he said 11,500, I said, round it up to 12, because I knew I needed 12. So it was playful, but it was also serious. It was my bottom line, and I got it. So that is what I want you to understand. Like, I knew my bottom line and I got it, right? Could I have walked away with it at 13,000? Yes, I could have pushed a little bit more, but I felt good with 12. And also I felt good in spirit of what we had just accomplished together. So that's what I ended up trading the car in for. And then I wrote a check for the 4,500 because I had it in my bank account, because I've been money minded and it felt really good. So I didn't have to carry anything from that previous car over into my new car. So that was really nice. And then I had worked with a credit union ahead of time. So I had told, when we sat down to negotiate, I said, I already have a loan company. I've been approved for them. I didn't say the amount, but I said, I've been approved with them already. I have a loan company, this, that, and the other. And then afterwards, he figured out that my loan approval rate was quite higher, 34,000, than what I ended up spending, 27,000. Feels good. It feels good to be in control of your own destiny, right? So I hope that this story is really helping you have some light bulb moments for yourself about ways in which you exchange energy with other people, ways in which to hold your worth and your bottom line, ways in which to take some emotion out of what we do and have some logic and some humor and some fun with it. So I would love to hear in the comments, what are some strengths that you have had with negotiations, whether it's buying a new apartment, a car, getting a raise, getting hired, your love life, any of that kind of information. I would love to know, like, how have negotiations gone for you? And any stories, any tips that you can share in the comments for other people about negotiations. And yep, that's it. So thank you so much for sticking with me and listening to me and being here. And if you want to share this, with anyone who is buying a car, looking for a raise, that would be awesome. Thank you for subscribing, and I really appreciate your time. All right, have a good one. Bye.